Hi, it's Shayna. I'm here in my Western Washington Zone 8B garden, and in this video I'm going to show you everything that I'm doing in the month of August to prepare for bumper crops the rest of this year and into next year. So let's go. Number one, if you haven't done so already, is planting out your fall garden. I did an entire video on this. I'll link it here above for you to check out. But now is a great time to start your indoor brassicas as it's still too hot right now, and then just transplant them out later this summer. You can direct sow and transplant things like lettuce. You can direct sow your root crops like carrots, beets, rutabagas, turnips, parsnips. You can even do another round of potatoes. Just make sure that you check your seed packet for the days to maturity and compare that to your last frost date to ensure that you have enough time for your crops to mature. While I did start the majority of my fall garden, I still have a few more things that I'd like to start. So today I'm going to be starting peas. We put in this fence to keep the hens out of the garden, but because it's made out of hog wire, it would act as a beautiful trellis. I really want it to be a live wall, so I'm going to be direct sowing peas every couple of inches in hopes of making that dream a reality.
I also sowed carrots and I placed cardboard over them to help aid in germination. Just make sure you check every day and remove when they germinate.
I should mention that this garden bed gets quite a bit of shade, which will be better for your cooler season crops. So back here are the carrots. I'm going to be sowing in the front some radish, specifically the French Breakfast by Territorial Seeds. What's kind of interesting is the cover shows a bunch of different radish, which is what I thought it was. Turns out French Breakfast is actually just one singular type of radish, which is not even seemingly pictured on the art, but whatever, that's okay. They're an elongated pink radish with a white tip, like these. And interestingly, they came in this like paper towel like thing, and I looked it up, and I guess you plant out like the entire strip. It's like brilliant, but also there's no mention of it on a seed packet.
I'm placing them a couple of inches apart, covering them up with soil and giving them a good drink of water.
I'm sowing bush beans wherever I have the open space that I don't have plans for. So I sowed some of these about a week ago, and you can see some beans are actually popping up. One crop I'm experimenting with are onions. Yes, onions. There are many people on here that claim you can grow onions year round. Heard stories where people plant these out late summer, get them started indoor in late summer, plant them out towards end of September, and you can end up getting an earlier onion harvest into next season. So we're gonna experiment with that. I'm gonna sow the rest of the seeds of these Walla Walla long day onions that I have. We'll see how they do. I don't really know how this is gonna work because like our day length is gonna be really short through the winter, so I don't really know how this is gonna work, but it's worth a shot. Alliums do totally fine with root disturbance, so I just blanket sow them in this nursery pot, and then I pull them apart when it's time to transplant them out, and they don't mind it at all. This is how I grow all of my alliums. Next up, snapdragons. I'm starting indoor, planting them out in the fall, so that way hopefully they'll get mature enough within the first year to overwinter and then have an early spring bloom. Basically, I want this entire patch to be snapdragons because they have a shallow root system. It should be safe for my septic system, and I've just fallen in love with snapdragons. They are so pretty, and I don't like the empty space, so that's why I'm going to be planting out my snapdragons in this space. Additionally, starting them indoor helps because then I won't have to worry about my chickens digging up the seeds or having birds or squirrels come by and digging up the seeds as well. You guys have seen my garden side of the yard, but you haven't really seen this side of the yard, and that's because there is still so much to do and I don't really quite have a vision for it yet. I would like to do like a little outdoor gazebo and like kitchen TV area possibly, but if you have any ideas for me, please drop them down in the comments below. We did end up buying a barrel sauna. We're planning of taking out that wood shed, putting a new one on the other side of the yard, putting the barrel sauna in place of where that woodshed is. So I'm hoping that will help motivate us to actually fix up this side of the yard. Next up, hollyhock. Hollyhock is a biennial, meaning that we'll put up stalks the first year and then bloom the second year. But if you sow it near the end of summer, it will actually put out blooms the following year. So that's what I'm gonna try to do today. This seed packet is from Ed Hume Seeds, and it says it's a perennial. So I'm confused if that's like marketing because it's calling it a perennial because it's like every 2 years or if it will actually continue to grow back, because my understanding was that the biennial hollyhocks will die after the second year that they bloom. Unsure, so we'll see, I guess. So we're gonna plant hollyhock right here along this side of the fence. The second major thing we're doing in the month of August is harvesting. We're finishing harvesting our crops that we started late winter into spring, like onions, potatoes, shallots. We're also starting to harvest our summer crops, like cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, tomatillos, and if you're luckier than me, squash. My neighbor actually gave me some free squash because I gave her a free squash plant and she knew that I didn't have any squash. I just love the gardening community. Building a community around a hobby like gardening was not something that I foresaw with this. And it's been so fun getting to know people within my community and on social media who are also interested in gardening. It's just really cool.
We're harvesting 2 lemon cucumbers. These things have been so productive for me lately. Sun gold tomatoes and red cherry tomatoes. You can harvest these as soon as they blush because they will ripen on a sunny window. This is also a good practice to do if you have any issues with pests or wildlife getting to your fruit before you do. I'm going to let these San Marzano tomatoes ripen just a little longer.
This is an early girl tomato. I am gonna pull this one. This guy's ready. Yeah, this and this. These are the Zabroon shallots by Botanical Interests. And this is your reminder that the more you harvest your peppers and a lot of other plants, the more fruit it will actually produce.
I'm harvesting my Fresno pepper now because it's the first one and I want the plant to focus on producing more peppers.
Tomatillos. I just love growing tomatillos. This is my tomatillo wall. I love growing tomatillos. They're so fun to grow because they're so productive. They get huge. I'm attempting, but not very well, a Florida weave, which just will help to kind of keep these more contained. I need to add another string and make it a little bit tighter. Last year, I got so many tomatillos from just a few plants. I made all of my own salsa verde, enchilada sauce. I even froze a lot of it. That's what's amazing about gardening is it's such a gateway drug into other hobbies. We ended up getting a huge chest freezer and we froze large batches of salsa verde enchilada sauce and we were eating it well into the winter. And I actually even have some tomatillos from last year that I need to use up. I actually forgot about them and I don't know if they're still good. I do have a good example of a tomatillo that is ready to harvest. So you want to wait until the paper gets to be a pale color and actually breaks open like this one. And that's a sign it's ready to harvest. 7 tomatillos. The next thing we're doing in the month of August are trellising our plants. This is an arched cattle panel trellis, and I'm using it to help my cucumbers climb up. A lot of times they'll start to climb it on their own, but they also frequently need help. Our plants are finally starting to grow like weeds here in the Pacific Northwest, so it's important to stay on top of your trellising. This is my vertical tomato trellis. I'm using some jute twine to help trellis these tomatoes up vertically. Because I am packing them in pretty densely, I am leaving a couple suckers depending on the plant, but mostly I'm going to be pruning these ones pretty heavily, which I know is a controversial topic. I'm leaving my other tomatoes virtually unpruned, but just because I'm packing these ones pretty dense, I am pruning them back. Growing your plants upright aids in more airflow, which in turn decreases disease. It also just looks very aesthetically pleasing. This year we've added a lot more vertical elements to our garden. The vertical tomato trellis, the cucumber arch trellis, the new garden gate where I sowed those peas that will hopefully be climbing vertically. We've also got our trellis privacy wall by the fire pit that my husband built for me. My plants aren't doing as well as I had hoped over there, but that's okay. Maybe next year will be my year. I'm using wood stakes, bamboo stakes. I find myself just adding little stakes and trellises all throughout the month of August.
This volunteer sunflower is by far the largest sunflower I've ever grown. I really hope it doesn't reach the power lines. I've got beans climbing up this wire trellis, the sunflower, and this wooden trellis I got for free off Facebook Marketplace. All of my tomatoes have vertical supports.
Another great way of growing vertically is actually utilizing the crops you have in your garden. So For example, I've got corn growing right here. I've got beans growing up that corn, as well as cucumbers, and I have squash growing down below as mulch. Now, this is known as the Three Sisters method. It's a Native American companion planting method. If you're interested in learning more, I highly encourage you to check it out. This is just another way of growing your plants vertically using the existing plants that you have. How cool. And growing vertically, you get more produce. Who doesn't love that? This section of my garden actually brings me to the fourth thing I am doing in my garden this August, which is utilizing secondary crops. A secondary harvest that you have after you use your first harvest on the same crop. It can also just be harvesting a different part of the plant or utilizing the plant in another way. So for example, sunflowers here, ornamentally, beautiful. We love them. So do the squirrels apparently, and the birds. You know, you can actually eat the sunflower heads. I haven't tried it yet, and right now the birds and squirrels are thoroughly enjoying them, so I'm just gonna leave them for the wildlife. But what I am trialing this year is saving the sunflower stalks to turn them into plant stakes. Now this will take several months for them to dry out. I have a few examples. So here are some sunflower stalks that I have saved in hopes that they will dry out and I can use them next year as plant stakes. So we'll see if this works. If it does work, I want to turn these into a bean teepee, because how cool would that look? You guys saw me sow radish right here in the front of this bed. Now radish, you can eat the radishes, but you can also eat the radish leaves. Another example of a secondary crop. Some people use them as lettuce. I like to use them in my pesto. I made a bomb pesto earlier this year with my radish leaves, and now I think I might be more excited for the leaves than I actually am the radish bulbs. The next crop are male squash flowers. You can actually utilize these flowers on your squash and pumpkins. The female ones obviously produce pumpkins, but the ones that don't, the male flowers, you can actually eat them. There are a ton of recipes online for squash flowers. A lot of them consist of washing them, stuffing them with like ricotta or goat cheese, and then frying them in oil. Another example of a secondary crop. Didn't have luck growing onions this year? Well, you can also eat the greens as green onions. I had several onions that didn't bulb, or they broke the necks too early and I had to eat the bulb right away because they won't store for long-term storage, but I was able to use the greens. Now I use these greens, we made a ginger scallion sauce, used it in a stir fry. You can also turn this into pesto. You can make green all-purpose sauce with all of the scallions. So many ideas. Now this is my celery. While most people eat celery for the stalks, you can actually also eat the leaves. People use them in salads, smoothies, but there are so many examples of secondary crops. What are your guys' favorite secondary crops? I'm always looking for new ideas. Drop them down in the comments below. Lastly, we are focusing on damage control. I have some yellowing leaves, which is often a sign of nitrogen deficiency. So for those, I'm hitting them with a fish fertilizer because it's organic and it's high in nitrogen. For my fruiting plants like peppers, tomatoes, I'm hitting them with Tiger Bloom, which is a high in phosphorus and potassium fertilizer, which will help with more flowers, more blooms, overall plant health and development. I did think that one was organic. It turns out it's not, so that's kind of a bummer. But honestly, I really don't know what difference it really makes. I've heard that it can lead to an accumulation of salt buildup, but other than that, I'm not actually quite sure the significance of using an organic versus non-organic fertilizer. So if you guys know, please let me know down below. There's so much mixed information online that it's hard to really sort it out. Powdery mildew is a big thing that hits us here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, I'm pretty surprised that my squash haven't had any yet. In previous years, I just let the powdery mildew take over, but this year I'm planning on being proactive. I've seen that you can use hydrogen peroxide, a few tablespoons in a gallon of water, coat your plant leaves in that. I've read that you want to do that closer to sunset, that way the sun doesn't scorch the leaves with the hydrogen peroxide in it. Powdery mildew is common in areas with high humidity, so as the temperatures come down, the nights get more dewy, higher humidity, we'll probably really begin to see more powdery mildew on our plants. Contrary to what you might think, heard from a few different sources that you can spray your plants with water near the beginning of the day. That way the sun will dry it out and it won't stay on there overnight. You can hit them with water to knock off those powdery mildew spores. So apparently that's also an option. I am thinking of using a preventative measure with the hydrogen peroxide. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Usually I just rip off the leaves, but that hasn't really been effective over the years, so we're gonna switch things up. Last little bonus tip, in the Pacific Northwest, it's blackberry season. Go harvest the blackberries on the trail. Blackberries are everywhere. Go harvest them. They're free. You can stock up, you can freeze them. I'm turning some into blackberry simple syrup, blackberry liqueur, and blackberry cobbler, as well as freezing some. And you can even freeze them for the next year. Why not? They're free. And that's all that I got for you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed the video. I might post a video showing you what I'm actually doing with my harvest. If that's any interest to you guys, let me know down below. If there's anything you'd like to see in particular, let me know. But if you enjoy this type of content, then I encourage you to subscribe and let's grow together. Good night, guys.